This show is sponsored by the Bank of Princeton and the University Medical Center of Princeton at Plainsboro.
An idea here, an innovation there. A new way of working in one room, a new approach to care in the next. Around every corner of the new University Medical Center of Princeton at Plainsboro, you'll find scientific breakthroughs and subtle human touches. That's what happens when you build a new hospital from the ground up. You get to keep an eye on everything, so you don't overlook anything. The new University Medical Center of Princeton at Plainsboro, redefining care.
Good evening, I'm Lou Goldstein and welcome to another edition of Focus On. Tonight our focus is on philanthropic organizations, and we have had many in this world who have done many great things for many people throughout the world and throughout our nation for wherever our TV show is broadcast, as you know. But one of the organizations that we want to focus on tonight is the Scheide Fund. And on the show tonight is Judith Scheide, who is the president of the Scheide Fund, and also Mariam Nazarian, who is also the producer and associate director of the Scheide Fund. Thank you both for coming on.
Thank you, Lou.
It's great.
Lovely to be here.
It's lovely to have you. And just as background, Judith, as I said, is president of the Scheide Fund, a philanthropic organization that has touched the lives of millions of people from all walks of life and from all over the world. For 17 years, she worked at Princeton University, coordinating events and later fundraising for classes. She's been an educator in New Jersey, also in the Princeton public schools, and also in the Minneapolis school system. She founded and taught at the Wilmington Montessori Association elementary program and has served on numerous advisory councils and organizations, including the Democrat National Committee, the Dryden Ensemble, McCarter Theater, the NAACP Legal Defense, Education Fund, and Center for Theological Inquiry. She met a good friend of both of ours, former Princeton Borough Mayor Barbara Boggs-Sigmund, while they were both in college and both working on a presidential campaign. Mariam, as I said before, is producer and associate director of the Scheide Fund. She made her Carnegie Hall debut at age 16 as the youngest pianist in Carnegie's history to have performed J.S. Bach's Goldberg Variations, BWV 988. She's produced numerous benefit concerts featuring the Vienna Chamber Orchestra, the Zurich Chamber Orchestra, the English Chamber Orchestra, the Festival Strings Lucerne, and the Bach Collegium Stuttgart, among others. Mariam co-produces guest appearances with Harvard University's Office for the Arts, where you graduated from Harvard, right?
Graduate school.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And she has served as programming advisor to the Arts Council of Princeton. She also has film project work, includes development for a dance marathon theme feature, which is produced by none other than Natalie Portman, as well as coaching for Elijah Wood in the upcoming thriller Grand Piano. And it's a pleasure for both of you to be on the show today, and it's great, and hopefully we'll be able to educate our audience a little bit about not only the Scheide Fund, but also a little about philanthropy and what it means and why it got started. So let's talk about the Scheide Fund, and maybe you can give everybody a little overview of what the Scheide Fund is.
Well, My husband's grandfather, Bill Scheide's grandfather, William II. Scheide, was a young telegraph operator in Pittsburgh in 1869.
Oh, wow.
And he noticed that barges were coming down the Allegheny River with oil in them, and so he decided that he would quit his job and go up and become a wildcatter for oil. And so he did, and he discovered a number of oil wells. He was in pretty good shape. When a young man named John D. Rockefeller came through, he was just starting out, and the way my husband put it, he had been a Sunday school teacher, and he loved the story of the Pharaoh's dream about the 7 fat cows being eaten by the 7 lean cows. So he decided that he would not look for oil, he would buy it up and store it for when everyone else was short, which is what he did.
Okay.
And then he hired Bill's grandfather to work for him, and he became a vice president of Standard Oil and bought stock and saved his money, and by the time he was 42, he felt he had enough, and so he quit and started collecting books. And he moved to Titusville, which was in the oil country, had a son, John, who went to Princeton, graduated in 1896, and John had Bill, who graduated in 1936, and John died when Bill was 28, and Bill inherited all the family money. And he decided that it was more than any one person needs, and that he was not going to keep it. And so he decided to give at least 75% of his income away, which he has done, because he was just this is really the way he has felt all his life, that he is the steward of his money, that people with wealth should be stewards and not hoard it. And so he looks for projects and charities that are nonprofits that will do some good for society, and he gives to them. And he hired me to work for him in 2000, and then we got married in 2003. And so it's, I've enjoyed working for him. I love giving away money, but it's harder to do than collecting it, I have to say. It's much harder, because we get about 300 applications a year, and we can't give to that many.
No, but it's nice to be able to select those who are needy and provide them with the opportunity.
But it's very difficult to decide.
Yeah.
And many times we just make the decision based on how many other people that group will affect.
That's great. That's great. And you're coming up on your 10th wedding anniversary next year, so that's
We
even
are,
good too.
we are,
Congratulations.
yes. We still consider ourselves newlyweds, but
There you go. There you go. So let's talk a little bit about the benefit. I know there's a little benefit coming up, and let's talk a little bit about the benefit and birthday concert ideas. How did they evolve? When did they evolve? And what's going on?
Well, it started because Bill always loved the conductor Mark Laycock. He said he's the best conductor he has ever seen after Toscanini. And Bill was a big supporter of Princeton Symphony. And when Mark left Princeton Symphony and moved to Berlin, Bill was so sad. He said, I can't bear the thought of not seeing Mark conduct ever again. And so I said, all right, let's have some concerts and bring Mark back. So we had Bill's first birthday concert when he was 94. And then we've been having his birthday concert ever since. His 99th is coming up in January.
Wow.
And we also do summer concerts, and sometimes concerts in the fall.
So January of 2014 is going to be a big concert then,
Oh,
for the 100th, right?
Mark your calendars.
Well, we're debating what.
For the world.
Bill's looking forward to it.
It sounds like he's active, and sounds like there's hope for the rest of us. That's good. That's good. So how do you select the beneficiaries, the program, the artists, the themes for these various concerts?
It's a collaborative effort.
Okay.
But mostly, I guess Judy, Bill, and Mark are
And
on
you
the.
and
Well, yes, on the creative side, we first select the beneficiary and the orchestra that is able to make it from Europe, and this is an interesting component that we have.
But often always, we try to do something that is community related, so that we can awaken community, our community, Princeton, Trenton, area, New Jersey community, to the needs of a particular charity that helps people in New Jersey and in Princeton especially. And that's why the first one was Isles.
Okay.
Marty Johnson and his wife were good friends of ours, and Bill felt that Isles was doing an invaluable service, so they were the first one. And the second
Okay.
was Centurion Ministries, which has been
Right.
one of our favorite groups for a long time, and then the Arts Council. And then
Well, then we had the hospital,
hospital.
the new hospital, and last year we had
Public library.
Public library.
And this
coming
year-
year we have
this year it's the Recreation Department.
Oh, the Princeton Recreation Department?
Princeton
It's-
Community Pool especially.
Ah.
an unusual idea, and something our team had been wrestling with. How do we combine birthday pool benefit with classical music? That's often heavy and difficult to digest. And so all of these things in one. And so we came up with a beautiful theme collectively. It's called Forever
Actually,
Young.
part of it was driven by the fact that at an auction a year ago, we purchased Benjamin Britten's Young People's Guide to the Orchestra, which was up for sale. Bill's late wife and my late husband were both avid fans of Benjamin Britten, as Bill and I are too. And Bill has a wonderful music collection, but he had no Benjamin Britten. He had really no modern composers.
Right.
And so we bid on it. And we were so excited about it that we kept on bidding until we got it, even though we knew that the British Library was after it and the Britten Parish Society. But we managed to purchase it, and we sent the money away to Sotheby's. However, we received a letter saying, we think this might be a national treasure. And so we're going to investigate that. So they had a committee that worked on it for 6 months, and they decided, yes, it was a national treasure.
It is.
And so then they had to come up with the money because they had to pay us back.
Right.
And they had a very hard time. The British Library didn't have the money. Then all of a sudden, someone made a donation to the British Library that enabled them to purchase this original score with the narration that Benjamin Britten had written that has never been performed
Oh, interesting.
because the film people changed it. It was written for a film.
I hope so. What date is the concert again?
January 18th.
January 18th? Okay.
Yes, at 7:30, and will be held at Richardson Auditorium.
Oh, right on the
Right
right
on
on
the
the
campus
campus
of
of Princeton
Princeton.
University.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
That'll be nice.
And we have the very English Chamber Orchestra.
Yes, the English Chamber is delighted to be playing
They're
this Britten piece.
Patronized
Okay.
by Prince Charles and really one of the more famous chamber orchestras on the first tier of orchestras in Europe. And so we're delighted that that program is coming together in such a varied and
And
interesting way.
if people want to go, how do they get tickets?
They can go to scheideconcerts.com,
Okay.
and it's SCHEIDE concerts.com, or call the box office, the university box office, university ticketing, or ask us.
Yes, yeah,
So
absolutely. There'll be posters.
it's
Well, I'm
open
sure
to
there
the
are
public.
posters all
Yes,
over town.
yes,
Yeah.
there will be
Good.
I'm sure they're
a
there
lot
now.
of publicity around town.
Yeah.
Closer
Well, it'll
to
be a
the
good way to
date,
start the
so-
new year. Definitely a good way to start the new year.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, yes. To think swimming in summer.
It's a delight, and it's also, I think, a part of the appeal of this type of a benefit is that it really benefits all. It's a win-win for all. The beneficiary obviously benefits in terms of the funds and exposure that they get in the community. The community learns about the beneficiary and the various artists that come to play, and artists that they don't often hear in Princeton, that don't come through Princeton. So the Vienna Chamber Orchestra, the Zurich Chamber Orchestra, they rarely visit us.
And of course, Mark Laycock is coming back
of
from
course.
Berlin.
Yeah, I was
Yes.
wondering if you could give us a little
Yes.
background on Mark and
Yeah.
the English Chamber Orchestra. Yeah.
Well,
Not everybody's familiar with Mark, so maybe for those who aren't familiar with Mark.
all right. Well, Mark Laycock started out with the Philadelphia Orchestra when he was very young,
Mhm.
and then was hired to be the assistant to the founder of the Princeton Chamber Orchestra, was the Princeton Chamber Orchestra at the time, and then became the conductor and was the conductor for 20 years.
Yeah. Turning it into what we now know as the Princeton Symphony.
Yes, he
Right.
turned it into the Princeton Symphony Orchestra. And then he left for Berlin. He remarried, has 2 baby girls. One is 3, one is 1, and is living in Berlin and conducting in Europe. But we get him to come back. We insist that he come back. Bill says, Mark, we need you. So Mark gets on a plane and comes back and conducts for us.
Wow. Wow.
And it's
He's
a great,
just,
great
he's a
collaboration.
spectacular conductor, no doubt about it.
That's great.
And
he-
so,
and-
yes, well, the English Chamber Orchestra, I mean, people have known it over the past few decades as one of the more prominent orchestras in Europe. They have over 800 recordings to their name, released recordings. And I know most recently people are familiar with Atonement, a film that came out not too long ago, and that soundtrack was recorded by them, Dario Marianelli's soundtrack. And so they perform all over the world, so I think we're fortunate to get an orchestra of that caliber to come to Princeton and perform a very English program.
Yes, yes, it is.
With the exception of the Beethoven Fifth
Well,
Symphony, I
yes,
guess.
the Beethoven Fifth, which is
We don't want it to roll
everybody's
any
favorite
grave.
symphony, I think, especially children.
Right.
They
right.
learn the first symphony most children hear is the Beethoven
Sure.
Fifth. And we're also doing a little piece from Vivaldi. It's winter, the part of the Four Seasons. So it is winter time.
Yes.
Right.
You know, this is concerts appearing. And and we managed to find at an auction a copy, a first edition of the Four Seasons that has in it a lost page, a lost piece for cello that most recordings don't include. And so this will be performed.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's
And-
exciting.
So it's a great educational experience.
And also, I have to mention this.
Yeah, you
learn
brought some
new
gifts here.
things.
It's been sitting in front of me
Yes.
for a while now, and I want to know what's in this book that you have in front of you.
This was a present from Mary Curtis Bach, zimbalist, who founded the Curtis Institute.
Okay.
And she became 75 on August 6th, 1951, and she was a great friend of many composers. And her best friend, Samuel Barber, organized this book for her birthday. And he sent pages to many composers, loose pages, and then he bound them and gave them to her.
Okay.
And each of these composers wrote a variation on Happy Birthday to You.
Oh yeah.
This is
good.
one. This is actually very interesting. It's a collage made by Paul Hindemith,
Okay.
and he put together these various printings of other music, but then he circled notes that become.
That spell out Happy Birthday.
Oh, that's
yes,
the
Play
notes for Happy Birthday.
to You.
Oh, that's great.
But there are pieces by Stravinsky and Villalobos and
Poulenc and
Poulenc, Giancarlo
Sibelius.
Menotti,
and-
Sibelius.
so it's really
So,
an extraordinary collection.
oh, it is. It's
And you
quite-
can see their handwriting and their style, and they harmonize everything differently. So it's really a creative little vignette of
We have Copland and Honegger, many. And Andrew's son, who is a pianist,
Right.
is going to make them into a composite piece
Yeah.
and play them. So we'll hear a number of different versions, variations on Happy Birthday on the piano.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's going to be great.
And that will be fun.
That would be very
in
interesting.
keeping with the theme. So
And I know you also have some literature in front
Oh,
of you too,
yes,
so maybe we
yes,
can
this
explain
is-
that a little bit.
these are programs from our previous concerts, from our past concerts,
Okay.
and this is the most recent one that we've had booked for the evening, which benefited the library.
Okay.
And Sound Medicine, which benefited the hospital, the Princeton
Okay.
Hospital. And this, which was a very moving event, and we still have people come to us recalling how the wrongfully incarcerated and currently free, because of the work that Centurion does,
Right.
individuals came up on stage and handed flowers to the 10 or so soloists that were performing that evening. So he had that exchange happening on stage, and the audience was in tears and was so moved. So we keep getting requests for that type of a moving event, and I thought, well, it's really as far as you can take it. I mean, imagine someone had mentioned there was collectively they had spent 130 some years in prison, incarcerated, and they came up on stage and were enjoying the music and the freedom, and it was just a very emotional experience. So
21 exonerees came.
Wow.
Jim McCloskey is the founder of Centurion Ministries, which works sometimes for 20 to 30 years trying to free people who are innocent, but in prison, either on death row or in prison for life. And he has done the most remarkable work long before DNA was possible.
Right.
Yeah.
So we wanted to celebrate Jim McCloskey and Centurion for what they do, because so few people really know about them. And I think they've had a lot more publicity since the concert. And it was wonderful to see the exonerees. And they're coming back.
Yes,
Are
and they request tickets to every concert. They have been since that one.
Love it.
And so it's an extraordinary experience for them.
That's great.
And
That's
for us as well to be able to do that.
Phenomenal thing that's going on. One of the things I was hoping that you could do is to encourage the community to support the cause, the event, the arts in the region, the importance of government in funding the arts, funding educational initiatives. And I was hoping we could speak just a little bit about that.
It's very, very important. I mean, I can't underscore it enough. And the work that we do, we're fortunate, and I do it on behalf of the Scheides, we're fortunate that we have the capacity to do it. Occasionally we run into problems, but these are problems that most people run into, especially post 9/11. Bringing in foreign musicians for performances here, for instance. The visa issue is a major hurdle that most have to overcome. So when you think of these types of hurdles and how they hurt the community by preventing the education of local children, local communities, by barring that exposure. So it's really important that government recognize how they can facilitate and maybe make a fast lane for such exchanges, artistic exchanges, and also encourage arts education in schools, public schools, private schools. They're, in general, it's very easy to perceive the decline of funding and also the quality of teaching, because it isn't compensated in appropriate manner. So it's really, it's a shame that we're experiencing this, and the Scheide Foundation really is just one island in this type of a community that sponsors and continues to propel this cause. But it would be great to see something on a
well, Scheide Fund. We are not a foundation.
Yes, yes.
We are not a foundation.
True philanthropists.
Yes, we're philanthropists. But actually, and we do usually just have foreign orchestras, because this is a nod to Mark. It gets him to know these other orchestras where he is now, and they invite him back to play or to conduct in various cities in Europe. So
That's great.
It becomes a very nice...
A cultural exchange of sorts.
Yeah, it's a cultural exchange, really.
Very nice.
And we have soloists that are both American and foreign. We've had a Korean soprano perform with us once, a German violinist, an Austrian pianist, and so there's a very lively exchange that happens on this stage in Princeton.
We had a special Korean soloist for a Mozart piece. We had to apply for 4 different visas for her, and she finally was able to come the day before the concert.
To convince the government that she was of no threat to society, but was only going to share her music. So it was an interesting challenge too.
I do have to mention that in the summertime, we do concerts as well, a special summer concert.
Okay.
And often, well, for several times we've done it free for the community, as a thank you to the community. But in other cases we do it to benefit local charities or the New Jersey Symphony and the New Jersey Opera education funds. We've been working with both the New Jersey Symphony and the New Jersey Opera.
That has been a fairly consistent
Recently.
collaboration. So every summer we have productions put on by both organizations here, and
Right.
they take place, one concert, a benefit concert, takes place at Richardson, and some performances that follow up take place at McCarter. So that's another, yes, that's an example of
Yes.
how the local organizations also benefit.
Right.
Right. Well, you know, we're running short on time right now. And any last things that we want to get in before we go off the air?
I would like to mention that it isn't just the arts that Bill has been most concerned about. In 1953, a young lawyer named Thurgood Marshall came to Princeton to ask him if he would support a case that he had coming up before the Supreme Court, which was Brown versus the Board of Education. And Bill did support it and went on to put Thurgood Marshall's children through college, and has been a board member of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund for about 60 years now. And I'm on the board there too. Bill says that he is a Lincoln Republican, which means he is for freedom for all people. And he's very insistent upon that. And he's always been civil rights, the poor. We give most of our money to civil rights, poverty programs,
Right.
various health and disabilities programs. That kind of thing is...
And of course, education.
And
is very
education,
important.
yes. Education is a big one.
That is good. That is great. But, well, it's true. Over the years, it's the Scheide Fund definitely is the North Star for all other philanthropic organizations and funds to follow.
Yeah.
And I think as long as that North Star is shining and, you know, putting events like this together, it certainly will be an attraction for everybody to come, and hopefully everybody will be there in January to come to Richardson Auditorium, Princeton University on January 18th.
January 18th.
And enjoy it. It's going to be a lovely evening. It'll be a good thing for you to come, not just to enjoy the evening, but it goes to a great honoree this year, the Princeton Recreation Department.
The community pool, actually.
And the community pool, which is new pool at the Community Recreation Department, right by Community Park. And we'll have a lovely evening.
And the concert starts at 7:30 this year.
Yes.
We have to mention that.
Okay, 7:30
It's not
this year?
8 o'clock.
Okay.
Keep in mind.
7:30.
So go out to dinner before, make your reservations before.
Yes.
And
make
catch
sure,
every second of it.
and make sure you're there by
Don't
7:30
miss it.
start.
Don't miss the first part.
Well, it'll be a wonderful evening. And thank you very much, both Judith and Mariam, for coming on
Thank you
and
for having us.
explaining
Thank you.
everything.
It's been lovely to be here.
Well, it's been lovely
nice.
having you, and it was very informative and educational to our audience. And for those who don't know about the Scheide Fund from New Brunswick, New Jersey, all the way down to Philadelphia, they do now. And certainly, I hope to see our audience out there and hopefully supporting good causes along the way. So I'm Lou Goldstein, telling you to stay active, stay healthy, stay involved, and I'll see you next week on another edition of Focus On. Have a good night.
Was it the last time? We took our chances and reached for paradise.
This show is sponsored by the Bank of Princeton and the University Medical Center of Princeton at Plainsboro.
An idea here, an innovation there. A new way of working in one room, a new approach to care in the next. Around every corner of the new University Medical Center of Princeton at Plainsboro, you'll find scientific breakthroughs and subtle human touches. That's what happens when you build a new hospital from the ground up. You get to keep an eye on everything, so you don't overlook anything. The new University Medical Center of Princeton at Plainsboro, redefining care.